Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 5 of the Fujitsu Impact Series, driving AI for real business outcomes. In our last episode, we explored AI sovereignty, how to maintain control and compliance in a multi cloud world. But today, we're facing an even bigger challenge. What happens when AI starts making decisions on its own and those decisions go wrong? Autonomous AI systems and multi agent environments are transforming industries from manufacturing to financial services. But with this power comes unprecedented risk, data leakage that can cripple trust, bias that can lead to regulatory penalties, and rogue agents making unauthorized decisions that disrupt entire supply chains. So, this isn't just a technical issue, it's a business survival issue. So, the question is who guards the AI guardians? And to help us answer that, I'm joined by three experts who live and breathe this challenge every day. First, we have Ker Yang Tong, CTO for Asean at Fujitsu. Also, Kurt Dusterhoff, Senior Manager for the Technology Strategy Unit at Fujitsu Research of Europe. And we're also welcoming back Linus Lai, Group Vice President of Services for IDC. Thank you all for being here. All right, so to kick things off, I want to address a myth we hear all the time. AI security is just traditional cybersecurity. But here's the truth. AI security is not just cybersecurity, and misunderstanding that difference could cost organizations millions. IDC predicts that by 2030, 20% of global 1,000 organizations will have encountered lawsuits, substantial fines, and CIO dismissals due to high-profile disruptions stemming from inadequate controls and governance of AI agents. So, Linus, let's ground this conversation. How do you define AI security in 2026, and why is it fundamentally different from legacy cybersecurity?
Thanks. That's a great question. So legacy cybersecurity focuses on network, endpoints, applications, the works, even access controls. But AI security extends to the behavior of the models, the provenance and integrity of data, and the behavioral governance of autonomous agents even. You notice I focus on words like behaviors because obviously in some cases we treat AI like a black box with non-deterministic outcomes. So AI security in 2026 is going to be focused on AI models, right? From adversarial manipulation, prompt injection, or model theft. It involves the securing of data pipelines to make sure that we secure the data against poisoning or leakage or unauthorized access. When you do some form of prompt manipulation or autonomous agent behaviors as well in time to come. And that's why I'm calling it for 2026, right? The monitoring and controlling of the actions of AI agents and multi-agent systems, again, to prevent unintended behaviors. Above all of it is obviously governance. And, Carlos, I'm glad you mentioned the prediction because we think that there's going to be governance failures this year as well. And that can, stem from a lack of model lineage, insufficient bias controls, or other controls, right, or incident response, right, particularly in regulated sectors.
Mhm. Okay. Well, thank you, Linus. I mean, that's some great grounding. So, Ker Young, from a manufacturing lens, what's the biggest misconception organizations still have about AI security?
Thanks, Carlos. I think one of the key things that probably in today's context, especially in the manufacturing environment, is that people still think that the manufacturing environment is isolated. Means the operation technologies that drive all these manufacturing environment are actually isolated, and there will not be any kind of attack coming in from any angle because it's supposed to be air gap, etc. But with the deployment of AI, this is where we're starting to see things are changing fast. Example, in some of the customer that we met before today, maybe I'll quote one example, which is in the cement manufacturing industry. Today, they actually have a certain kind of AI manufacturing agent that actually help to balance out the heat, the air, and the kind of cement mix in terms of AI formulation. So with that, AI is constantly refining the production plan for the cement makers, and this is where we see that it incurs new risks coming in from the security aspect in the sense that this agent actually could go wrong and start to destroy what you have in terms of the manufacturing production line. So this is something that we see that there's a need in today's context to secure this agentic AI workflow in the manufacturing side. And with the converging of IT and operation technology OT, this is where new security blind spot actually occurs.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. All right. So now that we've cleared the myth, let's talk about the impact. So, especially in high stakes industries. So, Linus, why is AI security urgent for manufacturing and regulated sectors right now?
Yeah, I'll start with manufacturing. So manufacturing, obviously a prime target, right? They've gone through waves of digital transformation, talking about, right, everything from automation or, the factory of the future or the shop floor automation, and going into remote operations, and even the fact that it's, complex supply chain and very interconnected, right, ecosystems. So from an operational risk perspective, right, IT and OT convergence, and if you add agentic AI for automation, actually expand the attack surface, right? Introducing new risks from these autonomous agent behaviors, and even like what Ker mentioned in the quality process itself. From a supply chain vulnerability as well, it gets even more complicated because now, if you think about how agents talk to other agents, right, via all these protocols like MCP, which doesn't really cover, security in detail, it makes even a bigger attack surface, right, for attackers, and therefore it could have some form of disruption in the future. And of course, regulatory pressures, and I'm moving out of manufacturing now into regulated sectors like finance, healthcare, critical infrastructure, are basically accelerating their own mandates, their own regulation and their own frameworks, right, that demand robust governance, explainability, and compliance. And that's where we see the failures resulting in penalties. Ultimately, for any enterprise who's employing AI now, which I know gives a lot of competitive advantage, real-time compliance and risk management are required, because these things are obviously taking action in real time. And therefore, how we communicate with the stakeholders like insurance companies and regulators also become a lot more important, right, as they begin to obviously drive a lot more security, explainability, and controls, right, even in our business processes.
Okay. Well, thank you, Linus. And Kurt, from having worked with various customers, you've seen what happens when organizations skip guardrails. So, what's at stake if AI operates without the proper controls?
Okay,
Well,
sorry.
well, Carlos, I think one of the key things that we can understand is that AI agents can perform whatever tasks are available to them, and that can be unauthorized or unexpected tasks, and they'll access whatever data they have, whether we mean for them to access it or not, whether it's sensitive or standard workflow. So without proper guardrails, AI agents can act in the same way as any human without proper guardrails. They can do what they find best. In a supply chain context, for example, that can mean agents either ignoring or exposing pricing strategies, triggering incorrect orders, or even, as we've seen in the last couple of weeks, illegally colluding with other agents. Where we've seen some experimentation in the last 2 weeks where vending machines have colluded to create a cartel to increase prices. So AI agents need the same guardrails and workflow management that humans do.
Well, thanks, Kurt. That's pretty scary. The vending machine mafia coming up. So we've talked about risks. Now let's get practical. So, Ker Yang, what technologies are actually helping organizations secure AI agents today?
Today, into today's context, there's quite a little technology out there that actually secures AI at the moment. I think Fujitsu is at the forefront of this development. So for Fujitsu, actually, we have a couple of technology solutions that help to secure this. For example, our Kozuchi AI ethics and compliance kind of technology solution. What it does is that it actually helps to check the AI to make sure that it actually confer to the biasness check that actually occurs. One of the key examples is especially in the financial industry. For example, there could be AI agents deployed in terms of loan application. So how do you ensure the fairness of your loan application in the industry? Does it favor female loan applicants more in terms of loan application approval rate, or does it favor the male? So all these AI ethics will come into play to check it out to ensure that AI is in check. Another aspect is we talk about the LLM vulnerability scanner. Today, a lot of organizations are deploying LLM at scale. This is where Gen AI actually comes in to help to create the content that you have, be it in some of the industry like food industry, manufacturing food industry, where they talk about recipe formulation. They use a Gen AI to create that. And they also look into certain Gen AI content creation, example in marketing, sales and marketing, and especially in HR, maybe certain sensitive data such as payroll data is available. However, when you expose your sensitive data to all this organizational aspect of Gen AI deployment, you are creating unnecessary AI risks there. What happens if, let's say, someone turn rogue, able to access your Gen AI and start to ask your Gen AI to divulge sensitive information like CO pay? Would the Gen AI be able to put a stop to it? Maybe it does, if especially so with guardrails. But if it doesn't, does the Gen AI able to deduce you are trying to work in a certain prompt injection way to reverse engineer the question and answer? For example, it will start to ask in terms of the CEO at monthly expense. It will try to find out more information about the spendings, and this is where it can reverse engineer and work out the pay. So these are some of the key criteria that's affecting the security in terms of AI.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So a lot to unpack there. So Kurt, let's bring this to life. How do these guardrails work in real environments?
I think the first thing we should understand is that visibility is the foundation of security. Being able to see what's going on is where everything starts. So with the scanners, the bias detection, and the monitoring systems, we want to integrate those with existing Siemens SOAR and incident management tools like ServiceNow to enable appropriate response prioritization. So building these tools into your traditional network and cybersecurity frameworks and workflows is critical. Regardless of the security technology, we also have to look at role-based access for agents, which is not really as simple as it sounds, because different people can access the same agent. So a framework where inherent agent access control into data is combined with inheritance from the human users with the least privileged landing zone is a key part of securing any AI agent. That's nothing special about AI, but it's knowing that the agents and their users have to combine their privileged access so that you know who's accessing what and how. As the guys have mentioned, the rise of agent collaboration via APIs and A2A and MCP and new protocols that may not include all of the networking security lessons that we've had over the past several decades means that integrators need to focus on API and collaborative framework security. Within our teams, we've wrapped MCP servers with additional security. We use A2A inside a security framework rather than raw out of the box. And it's being able to know how to do that and where to bring it into your security framework that becomes a key part of releasing AI agents onto your workforce. And for non-deterministic technologies like AI, we also need regular application of scanners and the bias detection, etc., to gain visibility of new vulnerabilities and also to detect regression, because models move, models shift, controls have to move with whatever the new workflows are, and regression can occur, whether by design or by accident.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. So following up on that, just to make it a little bit more real for our audience watching today, can you share a real-world example of where AI security made a difference?
Sure. If we move past the recent vendor mafia, we've got things like financial services where chatbots without guardrails have been known to leak sensitive data. So with some of the financial customers that we have, we're looking at use of these guardrails to prevent data leakage and have shown how that can work within organizations, particularly towards customer-facing chatbots. And within retail, language bias detection in terms of the output and the way that the chatbot converses with people has been a key part of compliance penalty management and avoidance. So when we're looking at personalized recommendations for products and services, having that bias detection is critical for your compliance management.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Kurt. Ker Yang, how about in manufacturing? What are you seeing there?
Oh, today in manufacturing, I think I've quoted a few examples, but let me quote one more example, which is in the automotive industry. This is where we talk about the OEM makers, how they're going to secure the OT data during predictive maintenance. For example, in certain automotive environment where you have the car, how do you constantly track maybe the wear and tear of your brake pads, wear and tear of your tires? And these are the things that will consume and generate a lot of data. By allowing the Gen AI to actually access such data, you are actually creating certain linkage to this critical workflow. And this can also be the backdoor where certain, I would say, attacks or hijacking can happen to move into the connected car algorithm. And this is where car could be hijacked in the worst case situation or being stopped, or could arise safety issue coming out from all these hacking attempts. And of course, for us, we need to look into how AI can actually be compliance towards all this kind of different kind of testing approach. And this is where we need to comply with EU AI Act for embedding explainability and data checks.
Okay, well, thank you. Those are all some excellent examples. Let's shift now from stories to action. For organizations watching right now, Ker Yang, where should they start without slowing innovation?
Okay, for organization, they should actually first look into those critical workflows, like those workflows that actually have a high impact to organization data classification, and of course, a high impact to the sensitivity of the operations itself. This is where example like customer-facing AI or any OT integration that has a huge critical impact, like just now we talked about automotive side, and also looking into using certain dashboard to help in terms of vulnerability scanning and to do compliance tracking. Of course, end of the day, we must all compliant to the government regulatory acts, and this is where we find this should be the starting point to look into operationalizing AI security.
Okay, thank you very much. And Linus, what about from IDC's views? What governance practices should every CXO embed today?
Yeah, so we definitely encourage stage gated approach, like many controls, and not just rely on one, right? So the organizations would really do well to define and operationalize AI security KPIs first. Things like bias scores, right? Vulnerability indexes as well to track vulnerabilities in models, data pipelines, that means tracking the versions of the models, and applications as well. So we're actually recommending an AI bill of materials as well to emerge from all of this. And then incident response metrics as well, how fast, right, you can respond, right, for AI-driven threats. There are, of course, ethical AI frameworks, which we talked about, and of course, they have to be aligned with your government's frameworks or your industry's frameworks as well. But there needs to be continuous audits and assurances as well. So that real-time monitoring for bias drift and emerging behaviors, that automatic lineage tracking and compliance reporting, and some form of red teaming, right, and adversarial testing as well, as we notice, right, is obviously non-deterministic in nature. And then board level accountability and reporting. I think this is one of the most important things that we shouldn't miss out, because we've got to ensure, right, the CXOs and the boards receive regular actionable reports, right, on the KPIs that we've set on our use of AIs, and link those AI metrics, right, to financial or business impact if we're going to get the investment that we need as well.
Okay, well, thank you very much. All right, so now before we wrap up, Let's have a little fun. So now it's time for our rapid round of true or false. So I'll make a statement, and I'd like you all to just come out and yell true or false. Ready? Here we go. True or false? AI security equals traditional cybersecurity.
False.
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 All right, wonderful. True or false? Bias detection is optional.
False.
False.
All right. And last one, true or false? Multi-agent environments don't need guardrails.
False.
False.
Wonderful. Okay, so before we wrap up, would you like to leave our audience with one final thought from each of you? Let's start with Linus first. If you can just
Right.
leave our audience
AI
with one.
security is a new discipline. Don't treat it like legacy IT.
Wonderful. Ker Yang?
Bias detection is mandatory for compliance, especially under EU Act.
Thank you. And Kurt?
Guardrails prevent mission-critical but easily avoidable errors.
Wonderful. Thank you all. All right, so here's your 3-point blueprint for AI security. Number 1, secure agents and workflows, not just networks. 2, embed bias detection and vulnerability scanning from day 1. And 3, integrate governance and monitoring for continuous compliance. All right, so that wraps up our session. Thank you so much to our speakers and our wonderful audience. If you'd like to dive deeper into this topic, simply scan the QR code on screen. There it is right now. Or you can use the link, which we'll drop below in the comments. There you can also subscribe to the Fujitsu Impact Series and get notified for upcoming episodes. You'll also find demos, insight papers, and ways to connect with our team. And great news, even though our broadcast is about to end shortly, our speakers will still be available for the next 20 minutes right here to answer all of your questions live in the chat. So please start putting in your questions right now. And if you found this session valuable, please share it with your network, and let's keep this conversation going. And now we'll leave you with one final thought. AI only delivers value when it's governed, measured, and continuously improved. And that journey starts with you. So join us next time for episode 6, AI Value Realization, KPIs, Governance, and Continuous Success, where we'll explore how to measure impact, track ROI, and make AI success sustainable. All right. Thank you very much, Ker Yang, Kurt, and Linus. And thank you to our wonderful audience. See you all next time.
See you.
Thank you.
See you.